In the top stories, a 20-year-old woman is remanded on gun and ammunition charges. An appeal for government to offer Wi-Fi hotspots. And West Indies Under-19s lose again ahead of Youth World Cup. Welcome to Nation News for Friday, January 15th, 2016. I'm Natasha Beckles. A 20-year-old woman has been remanded to prison after appearing in court on drug and ammunition charges. Ronisha Sharice Carter was not required to plead to the charges that she was in possession of a .357 Magnum handgun and 6 rounds of ammunition without valid licenses. The items were allegedly found when police executed a search warrant at her residence. Ms. Carter will reappear in Criminal Court Number 1 on February 12th. The Barbados Workers Union and the Massey Group will meet again on Monday to discuss plans for the retrenchment of some workers. At the end of a meeting on Thursday, advisor to the General Secretary of the union, Sir Roy Trotman, said the union had successfully negotiated for some workers to be kept on. He said more than half of the 176 workers originally targeted for severance will be retained. The two sides met again on Friday, but none of the parties spoke to the media. Government is being urged to open up some of its Wi-Fi networks to the general public. The request comes from CEO of the Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation, Celeste Foster. She said the Wi-Fi coverage in Barbados has improved, but there are still strides to be made. In 2010, the BEF set a goal of nationwide coverage by 2020, and Ms. Foster said that target can be reached if government opens up some hotspots. She was speaking at the launch of the second cohort of the Youth Agripreneurship Incubator Program.
One of our most important and impactful successes to date is the ranking of the island's Wi-Fi coverage. We have seen movement from less than 10% coverage when we started in 2011 to over 75% at the end of 2013. Just recently, Rotten Wi-Fi, a British-based blog which ranks Wi-Fi networks globally in 184 countries, based on the speed and quality of its hotspots, ranked Barbados at number 11.
Also speaking during that event was Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Esworth Reid. He said the introduction of free education was not meant to cause Barbadians to abandon agriculture. Mr. Reid said Barbadians allowed what he called foolish pride to stop them from applying their scientific and creative knowledge to growing food. He noted that many parents insist their educated children should not work in agriculture.
The purpose was not for Barbados at that time to become the home of an army of homegrown doctors, Dr. Eswick, lawyers and accountants. I believe that instead, the purpose was to empower cohort after cohort of poor young Barbadians by giving them an unrestricted opportunity to become scientific, innovative, investigative, research-driven, development-oriented, and entrepreneurial. For them to apply these skills wherever necessary and possible, even in agriculture, to help build wealth for self and for country.
The Barbados Road Safety Association is urging motorists to curb aggressive driving and road rage, following a number of serious crashes, including one involving a 5-year-old pedestrian. The BRSA is also calling on the authorities to pay closer attention to speed limits and pedestrian facilities near schools. President Charmaine Roland Boyne said rather than the subjective "reduce speed now" sign, the exact limit should be displayed. She suggested a limit of 30 kilometers per hour in some areas. A Grisette St. Michael woman is appealing for assistance in finding a new place to live. Miriam Grisette and her family have been asked to leave the dilapidated house which they have been renting for the past 35 years, but they have nowhere to go. Ms. Grisette said the original owners passed away and their children would not allow the family to make repairs. She said visits to the National Housing Corporation and Urban Development Commission have proved futile so far. In sport, the West Indies Under-19 team have found themselves in a worrying position ahead of the ICC Youth Cricket World Cup, which starts next week. They produced another weak batting effort on Thursday to lose the second warm-up game against Bangladesh by 171 runs. On Monday, they lost the opening game by 8 wickets. The final warm-up game will be played on Saturday before West Indies clash with Scotland in the opening game of the tournament on January 22nd. And finally, police in Nashville are hunting for a man accused of robbing a bank while carrying a Bible. The suspect walked into the Bank of America last week with Bible in hand and gave the teller a note. After he received an undisclosed amount of money, the man fled the scene in a vehicle. The Bible was left at the bank, but it is unknown if that was by accident or intelligent design. No weapon was seen. And that's Nation News for Friday. For more news, log on to nationnews.com, as well as YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Remember to pick up your papers over the weekend or subscribe to our e-paper. And look out for the Weekend Buzz a little later. Thank you so much for joining us.